You're listening to the Happy Workaholic podcast. I'm your host, Kellyanne Gorman. This show was once about business, LinkedIn, and my life with an autoimmune disease. And then one day I found out I was misdiagnosed, so I had to switch things up a bit. Life is so short, and when you're given a second chance, you better believe I'm going to take it, celebrate it, and share it with you. I'm on a mission to help women take their business and life to that next level they deserve to be at. This show is intended to elevate your mind, upgrade your business, enhance your life, and become part of a positive and uplifting community. Inspiration, motivation, and determination are what got me to where I am today, and I cannot wait to share these amazing stories of other female entrepreneurs who will be featured on the show. If you have a story or brand you want to share, send me a message on Facebook and Instagram today. You can find me at The Happy Workaholic. I would love to connect with you. Do you want a live chat during this episode? Make sure you're listening on iHeartRadio. I'm here to remind you to work hard, stay humble, follow your dreams, and never, ever give up. Thanks for taking the time to subscribe to the Happy Workaholic podcast. And now let's get into today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Your Podcast Production. Have you been wanting to launch your own podcast but not sure where to begin? Is time the only thing holding you back? Maybe you're already recording but need somebody to guide you through the production process. Do you have a message that needs to be heard? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I have just the program for you. Your Podcast Production designs, coaches, produces, and aligns you and your brand to have a successful, enjoyable, and profitable podcast. After launching my own show, I had so many women reach out to me and ask me how I did it. So what did I do? I created something I wish existed. There are many ways to create and launch a podcast, and you want to make sure you do it right from the very beginning. I believe that keeping it simple, organized, and original is the most effective and efficient way to go. Are you ready to start the process? Are you ready to learn more? Visit yourpodcastproduction.com today. Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode for the I Chose This Life series. Today I have Tarlise Trainer on the line with me, and we have been planning to record this show for months, probably since 2018, I'm thinking. Is that right, Tarlise?
I think so. It's okay. We're here now.
I know. And we live so close, so we have to meet up someday for sure. Tarlise, you guys, is the founder of Body, Brains, and Bank Account. And I'm so excited to share what she has going on and fill us in on her business. Tarlise, let's get started. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So what is Body, Brains, and Bank Account all about?
Well, it's funny. So this is an interesting question because your listeners won't know this, but you and I have the same birth date. And as a Gemini,
yes,
I like to talk about a lot of things. I'm kind of all over the board. I have been since I was young. And so what I realized is I was always talking about how to get healthy, things to do from water tips to healthy eating. And then I've always talked about mindset. Ever since I was a little girl, I was talking about, positive mindset or breathing or, being present. And then business, I love talking about business. I think there's so much to offer us now, with the way technology is going. And so I always talked about body, brains, and bank account. So it was something that I was in. So rather than having 3 different websites and go here for this course and go here for that program, I decided one day, I told my husband, I'd really just like to have a website where I could talk about all things body, brains, bank account. And he said, well, why don't you do that? And so that brand was launched about 6 years ago. And I'm just creating a community around people, I'm really wanting to showcase others. In the beginning, it was all about, the website was about me and what I liked for Body, Brains, Bank Account. Now I realize there's so much power in community and working collaboratively. And so my intentions moving forward from here on out are really to focus more on the community and really spotlight those people more.
I love that. And it is about community. And it is so crazy how there are so many jobs available and how we can create our own jobs and our own businesses using the internet.
Absolutely.
We're so lucky to be, living in this time and age. It's just so crazy. And obviously that's how you and I met.
Yes. Yes. And, I also run a business with my husband called the Trainer Method. It's a 90-day accountability program for entrepreneurs. And our tagline is actually play your own game. So I love that. I feel like you kind of gave me the layup on that one and set me up for it, because it's so true. It's like we teach others, play your own game. And you and I were talking about this right before we hit live is if you want to record your podcast on your phone, do it. If you want to do it in a fancy office, cool. If you want to wear flip-flops on stage, do that too. Like, it's really play your own game, because that's where your light shines. That's where you're the most creative and things flow and you don't feel stuck or stressed. And so I love that you said that, because I don't know how old any of you listening are, but I just turned 41, and I remember back in the day there was so much more effort that had to go into actually building a business and getting a video produced, etc. That right now I feel like with technology and our phone in our hands, it's really limitless.
And don't you feel that being a business owner, when you come up with a project, like you just, so many people ask me for my advice on this, and I say, you just have to start. Like, I don't even remember what my first show sounds like. It was so long ago, but I can tell you it doesn't sound like it does now. And when
Absolutely.
you just have that fire in your gut and you have this amazing idea, like, just throw up the landing page, build the website later, like, be specific and, obviously be mindful, and you're all about mindset about what you're putting out into the world, but just start. Like, everything else is going to come along.
Yes. And I love that you brought that up also, because my husband and I have been traveling for the last 10 months, and we have stayed in 39 different places between hotels and Airbnbs and resorts and just on the road. And I launched several courses from the road. And that's one thing that I realized is, had I waited, well, you know what, once we get settled and back home, I'm going to launch this course or whatever, I wouldn't have hundreds and hundreds of people introduced to my content now. And so it's so important. But I remember one day I was in a hotel and someone had asked me a question on Facebook. And then we went to dinner and I came back and another person had asked a question. I said, I really wish I could just find somewhere to put all these answers and to start, giving people, really good quality content. And so I created a course around that. But it's really just, sometimes we overlook what people are asking us for, or what kind of value we have to others. And if you just how do I word this? Sometimes when you have your eye on the prize, or you're building a business and what you think it should be, you sometimes forget what other people are telling us we're good at, or where the need actually is. You want to focus on talking about something else, but your expertise may be somewhere else. And so for me, I just realized so many people were asking me questions about social media, for instance, that I said, why don't I just put this all in one area and create a members area around it? And just like you said, if I would have waited until we weren't on the road, it would have never gotten done. It would have been 10 months later. And so the first couple of modules, the audio was weird, and my video was a little laggy. But then as I kept doing it a little bit more and more and taking action, then the course became better and better. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's like, you just got to do it and go, and you can look back on it later and laugh.
I know. Thank God we can. And I think that's what makes you more real and more approachable, and that whole, know, like, and trust factor when it comes to people wanting to buy from you, because they see the transition. Like a few, clients that clients now, or somebody that wants to work with me now, where I direct them to, because I was thinking maybe I should put together a podcast course, but there was already so many of those online, and I'm like, no, I have a podcast. I'm going to record an episode, how to launch your podcast, how to market and monetize a podcast. So now whenever somebody asks me, I'm like, you know what? I actually have 2 episodes that have every single thing I do. Like, just go listen to that. And they're like, oh my God, wow. And there it is. And then that saves us both time. They can listen on their own and then come back with like great questions so that I can actually like be specific in answering them, And with a course, absolutely. I think that's great too. Now, we briefly touched on mindset. And for those of you that aren't following Tarlise, every day at 12:34, you post something. Every day, right?
Yes, every day.
What
for
is
10
that?
Years. 10 years.
10 years. Oh my God. So what does that mean?
So every day at 12:34, I stop and I give gratitude. So some days I'm like, I'm so grateful for my lunch today, or I'm so grateful for my client, or the sunset, or my shoes, or it doesn't. It's always something different. It's completely different every single day. Some days I'm like, I'm grateful that I didn't punch this person in their nose, you know. But it's something that I started. You know, I don't know about you, but I've had a roller coaster of ups and downs in my life. Like something goes good and then something goes bad, and something goes great and something goes bad. And so I needed something that I could anchor to. You know, I needed something that no matter what was going on in my day, no matter what the external stuff that was happening, you know, whether it was my boss or my own internal stuff, that I could always stop every single day and just give a minute of thanks. Just say, take a deep breath, ignore everything else and go, what am I grateful for? And so I decided to set an alarm. And 10 years ago when I started, you know, cell phones weren't what they are today. So I actually used a physical alarm clock. But I set an alarm.
What is that?
What?
What is that?
Oh, what? Yeah, but I would like have an old school alarm clock, but I every day, and I knew that like some days were awesome and I would give gratitude, and some days sucked and I'd still give gratitude. And, you know, I remember right after my mom passed away, there was a day that my alarm went off and I was just like, screw this thing. But I just stopped and I was like, I'm grateful for the time I did have with my mom, you know? And so that's what I realized is no matter what's going on in your life, if you're, you know, happy, you're sad, you have money, you don't, you can always just take 1 minute and give thanks. And so it's something that I actually got tattooed on my arm. It's cool because every single day someone is like, what's up for? And I get to talk to them about it. But it's really now thousands and thousands of people have seen it. And so I'm like, if I could go viral on something or share something, gratitude is a pretty cool thing to do it for, you know? And so it's really just, it doesn't have anything to do with religion or anything. It's just taking a moment to go, man, I'm still breathing. Things are cool. I've made it through whatever is bothering me. And, you know, if today isn't what I want, then I'll have something else tomorrow to be grateful for. So yeah, I've done that 10 years now. And it's made a huge difference in my life also, you know, because some days you really have to fight for something to go, fine, I'm grateful for this, you know?
And it can be like the smallest little thing. But can I just tell you, I was not looking at my clock right now, and it just turned 12:35, which means we were talking about that at 12:34.
I love that.
I'm grateful that you're on my show today.
You know, it's funny. So I only turned my alarm off so it wouldn't interrupt us in the middle of this. But yes, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So yeah, what a great time to talk about it.
Oh my God, that is the best. And obviously we're both Geminis. We're the same age and we have so much in common. It's like insane between the traveling. Like when I was a pro makeup artist, I traveled on cruise ships and yachts, and it was over 60 boats combined. And I remember when you were traveling, and that's when we started really talking on Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, oh my God, I get that lifestyle, like you in the storage unit, like here we go again, and I'm like, been there, done that, and I could totally relate, and I'm like, let me know if you need any assistance mentally or physically.
I know. You know, it's funny because people say, would you do it again? And I say, you know, probably not, but at the same time, I learned so much. You know, I learned a lot about my spouse that I didn't know before 10 months traveling together. I learned a lot about, I mean, even, you know, from my spouse to business, I learned so much about what I should be automating in my business and what was actually taking a lot of the time. You know, I learned about maybe just personal things that I did of my own that were taking up a lot of time, or even, you know, sleep patterns and stuff like that. So I got to know myself a lot. And I didn't travel a lot when I was younger. So, you know, travel for me, it's something that's new in the past 8 years, I think, since I started working from home. And, you know, thank goodness for being able to work for myself that I can travel now. But, you know, I was one of those people that in their late 30s, I was like, am I ever going to travel? I want to go places. But it wasn't in, you know, the cards for me before that.
And I think it is so important to get out and go somewhere. Obviously, you were traveling and moving and picking up your life and moving again, but absolutely 200% I agree. You learned so much about yourself. I also learned that I'm like a legit professional packer now, which I'm sure you are. Like, you'd be amazed how much you can get when you start rolling things up in your little luggage and your carry-on and backing up a car. But also, you know, if you just get out of the house, like sometimes when I'm writing scripts or creating content, I'm glued to my computer. I need to walk away. I need to go outside. I need to take a cold shower or a hot shower, like just change my environment. And all of a sudden, this content just comes. And I'm like, oh my God, where did this come from? So I can only imagine moving so much, like how much you were thinking about your business and like creating new ideas. And obviously that's the Gemini thing. You want to do all the things.
I know. I'm like, oh, maybe the other day I brought it up to my husband about, I had an idea, and he's like, are you serious right now? I was like, okay, wait, we'll stop that one for a second. But I think that a lot of people that are similar to you and I that have a bunch of ideas and want to do different things, sometimes, and I can only speak for myself, but I used to get down on myself and think there was something wrong with me because I couldn't stick with one thing or because I didn't stick with one thing. And I thought that, I was never going to be successful at business. And sometimes I realized you just got to try a few things. You have to, you never know until you try. And so that's how I feel about the traveling and moving thing. I thought that I wanted to move, and along the traveling journey, we realized we didn't, but you don't know unless you do it. And so if you are listening to this and you're someone that's, someone said, yeah, you're the jack of no trades or something, don't let that kind of stuff get to you, because honestly I feel like the knowledge comes in the doing. A lot of us want now the microwave society where we want the answer as fast as possible, and we want the internet speed as as great as we can get it. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just picking up a book and reading and actually slowing down and taking a moment. I'm a certified stress management coach, and that's something that I bring in every single one of my courses, all of my programs, my mastermind, my program with my husband. All of it is like, we need to do this and have fun doing it. This isn't meant to be stressful. None of this is meant to be stressful. I mean, even if you have an a-hole boss, you can still choose to move through the day, not being stressed. And so that's something that I'm really focused on moving forward is, hey, we do have a choice in this. We get to decide how we want to run our businesses. We get to schedule in personal time. For me, I schedule outside time where I go and ground and put my feet in the sand and live a real life that's not behind the computer. And so I think sometimes we forget, because building a business online is so much fun, and look at my reach and my social media audience. But at the end of the day, you cannot pour from, an empty cup. And so you have to schedule that time if that's what you have to do. And I'm like, my outside time, my grounding time, my journaling time. And so it's important to me. And you have to set those boundaries for yourself. Do you set those kind of boundaries as well, where you're like, this is my creation time or this is my alone time? I think it's necessary.
Yes, and I do it depending on the day too. So like my schedule, I do certain things Monday through Friday. Monday and Friday, there's no interviews and no calls. I need those 2 days because Monday I usually deal with my legal case, and then Friday I always have therapy. And my therapist is like, okay, so no work for you doing this therapy. Like, you're good on Fridays. I'm like, okay. So I actually go to the meditation gardens in Encinitas. I'm sure you've been there.
Yes.
And that's where I go ground, because my doctor's right near there, on Friday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I am heavy on talking to everybody online, pushing out stuff for my clients, writing scripts, recording. So I have my me time in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and then at night, because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are really like my long days. So that's how I schedule my week. And then I break it down per day, and then I break it down per time, depending on what I'm working on.
Yeah.
That's how
I love that.
That's how my brain works, how I have to do it.
It's interesting because I love being up early in the morning. Like, I love getting stuff done before anyone can, communicate with me, I guess you'd say. But I'm also a night owl. I love being up late at night. And so I have a problem, and especially with traveling, I'm like, I haven't really figured, someone the other day said, oh, what's your schedule? Tell me your schedule. I'd love to know. And I said, I haven't really figured out a schedule again for myself, but something that I make sure to do regardless is give time for gratitude. I stretch every single morning just to, get my body moving and get blood flowing. Journaling and meditation is a non-negotiable. Grounding is a non-negotiable. And then all the other stuff kind of falls in, the video recording and the interviews and the coaching and all that stuff, that all falls in. But I'm kind of selfish lately. And I think it is because, I like to practice what I preach. If I'm going to teach entrepreneurs and go around and speak on stages about how to, eliminate stress, I think that I should, walk the walk, I guess you'd say.
Exactly. And I have certain rituals I have to do in the morning to like set myself up for success for like the whole day. Like my bed has to be made. That's non-negotiable. My iced coffee has to be next to me and be enjoyed before I like get online. And, I do my meditation, I do my journaling, same thing for you. And then I love getting up at 4:50, and that hasn't happened in a while. But like you, I like to wake up early, but lately I've been staying up really late. So now I'm just allowing myself to sleep. And I used to feel so guilty, like, oh my God, I'm not online. I'm like, no, like you were up all night. Like you need to take a break. So I rest, and then I do my rituals, and I set myself up for my day depending on what it is. And then at night, I kind of do the same thing, and then that way I sleep better. But it is crazy how we go through phases of like getting up early and then staying up so late. It's hard to like.
I know. I've learned, and this is the same thing with diet, for instance, or meal choices. I've lost 80 pounds. I worked, I tried all these things and I lost 80 pounds, and I was just going through depression and all this stuff. But now what I've learned is I just need to listen to my body. Like a lot of my weight gain and the issues that I had health wise, I just wasn't really listening, a lot. And I was kind of forcing things or using food as a crutch for me. So it's even the same thing. It's like, you got to figure out what works for you. If getting up some days works, and if getting up later other days works, then don't beat yourself up about it. That goes right back to what I was saying we teach our clients is play your own game. I think sometimes, you hear a book of you have to do it this way or you have to do this that way. It's like, that's not for everyone. We are all
Exactly.
so different and so unique and so blessed in our own ways that don't allow that to keep you from, doing what you want to do and at least giving it a try. Like maybe you go, you know what, I tried that 450, not going to work for me. Okay, now you're better for it, but just don't beat yourself up about it, because I think that sometimes, more often than not, we don't do the stuff because we're already in our head about things that have not even happened yet. Oh, well, what if people don't get on this live, or what if they don't accept my podcast, or what if they don't, what if the video gets thumbs down? It's like, that stuff hasn't happened yet. Just get it out,
That, and especially I think that goes kind of the same effect where if you want to do something that somebody else is already doing, like there's so many other podcast coaches out there, but there's somebody for everybody. So don't be discouraged. If you want to go and produce and, coach about podcasts, then go do it, because everybody is relatable in some fashion. Like if you want to put out a podcast about a certain topic and maybe somebody else is kind of talking about it a little bit, like we all have our own voice. Just share your message and you're going to get your own people, your own tribe, your own community. Like I think that's so important to say, because I feel like a lot of people, especially in the online community, they want to do something and then they're afraid to do it because they see there's so many other people doing it. And I'm like, if you stop, like you're never going to do it. You just need to go with your gut and do it. And if it doesn't work out, like we were talking about before, then you tried it. You gave it your best. I've had things that I've tried and it didn't work out. And I'm like, that taught me so much. Like I learned from my mistakes. And now I know like I can take those mistakes and turn them into something else that's going to help in the long run in my business now,
Absolutely. And I always tell people, so my younger sister and I, we grew up in the same house from when she was born until I was 18 and moved out. So 18 years we were together, but like we could both launch, we could launch a course about living in our town. So just so we have that common denominator, and our courses would be totally different. We grew up in the same house with the same parents, but we have different perspectives. And so I think that's so interesting. And so like you have to remember that is it does not matter if you literally are in the same room with someone, learning the same things, your perspective is going to be different. Your life lessons are going to be different. And so you always have your own spin to put on it. And like, no one grew up with the same things that you did. And so I always say use that. And the same goes for the opposite of that. If you're trying to do something that no one else is doing, don't let that stop you either. For instance, my focus moving forward, because I do have digital courses and I do have online communities, and my husband and I have our accountability program. I have all these things, but like I said, I really want to focus on teaching people to have more fun and stop stressing about stuff that doesn't matter, honestly. And so no one's really doing it the way that I want to do it. If you go on Google right now and you type in stress management coach, it's like random coaches that are it's like nothing like I want to do, nothing built around the community, nothing built around, like having everyone work together, nothing built around female entrepreneurs. And so in a way, I'm kind of doing something that hasn't been done, moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm totally okay with that, because I see a need for it. And I know out of working with thousands of people that this is something that's needed and no one else is doing it. So it's the same, like even if a ton of people are doing it or no one's doing it, it's the same. No one can be you.
And then you'll see so many will pop up now doing what you do. Because that's exactly what happened when I started coaching on LinkedIn a couple years ago. 3 years ago, I think I launched it. God, I can't believe it was 3 years ago. And I had such great success on LinkedIn, and a lot of people were asking me how. So I created a program and I designed it to be a LinkedIn coach. I was everybody's LinkedIn coach. Now, if you type in LinkedIn coach in Google, there's thousands. It's insane.
Right. It's funny because the same thing, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I was going to say the same thing happened for Instagram. So I started teaching Instagram in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
And then I took a break. I actually took a 2-year break because I was burnt out on it. But now everyone's teaching Instagram. And literally then there were like 6 of us teaching. And so isn't it funny? You're like, everyone's an Instagram.
Everyone. And then and again, like in so many different ways. Like some are just stories, some are about the DMs, some are about the video and the voice. Like everybody's trying to be specific in the same thing, in the same game. But yeah, there's so many. I swear every day I get pushed a new ad for one.
Yeah. But you know what I enjoy about that is I enjoy that there's still a need for it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you can get different perspectives. I used to never go through anyone else's Instagram stuff, and every once in a while I'll look at it or I'll read a blog, but it just goes to show like how abundant a world we're in. Like using
Mm-hmm.
Instagram as an example, there's over 1 billion users. Like how many people, let's ask ourselves a question. How many people in this year have you actually reached out to about your business? Like write a number. How many people have you prospected? How many people have you, gone and actively seek business from? I can guarantee it's nowhere near 1 billion. So you're okay. And there's plenty of people for all of us, And so I think sometimes we forget about that. I do it every time, I live by the beach. Every time I'm out by the beach and I'm surrounded by thousands of people, instead of allowing it to get me overwhelmed or to feel claustrophobic or I can't believe there's so many people, it's crowded, I always say, what an amazing opportunity. I guarantee you that not one of these people knows about my business. I can guarantee you that not one of these people knows me by name. What a great opportunity. And I just really flip it because when you think about it that way, how many people have you seen today subconsciously that you didn't even realize? Do they know what you do? Have you talked to them? And so it's funny because when people complain about business, I'm like, but have you really talked to that many people? have you? Because I think there's probably people in your own neighborhood that don't even know who you are. So don't let that bring you down. There's plenty of people that need what you have. There's plenty of people, regardless of if there's 2,000 coaches or 10,000 coaches, you can still do the same thing if you want to.
Exactly. What are some of your favorite Instagram tips that you like to give?
So I am loving communicating with people inside of direct messages, and I like doing it via voice message. So that has been something that's been working really well for me and actually cultivating some deeper relationships. Also, my favorite thing, and I've been giving this tip for like 5 years, but it's still my favorite, is cross-collateralizing. So what that means is if you post on your Instagram, don't be afraid to share that to your Facebook. If you're on Facebook, don't be afraid to share your Instagram from there, or sometimes I'll pin my Instagram on my Pinterest, and maybe you can share your, I don't know how LinkedIn works because I haven't done it in a couple of years, but share your LinkedIn on your Instagram or vice versa. And so I love sharing across the platforms because people would say, well, why would someone follow me on one if they're already following me on another? And it's because you're not necessarily thinking of that person, you're thinking that their audience is different and their communication styles are different. And so I love being able to share my Instagram and get so much business other places. So for instance, if you go to my Instagram account, one of the links that I send you to is to join my Facebook group. And so every single day I'm getting people that are joining my Facebook group because of that call to action. And so I love being able to not just use Instagram for Instagram and to use it to build my list, to get people into my courses, to build my Facebook groups, etc. So if people aren't doing that, right now, if you go to my Facebook profile, my very first link for you to click on in my bio is actually my Instagram profile, because why not? Why wouldn't I want to do that? It makes sense to me. And so I think that a lot of people focus so much just on Instagram, and they're not thinking about the actual network and like those little spider webs or mind map, if you will, into other areas of your life. So what are you liking most about it right now?
I agree with everything that you just said because I do the exact same thing. I use the app IFTTT. Do you know what that is?
If I this and that. Yep.
So I automate everything. My home is Instagram. So anything on Instagram goes to Pinterest, goes to Facebook, goes to Twitter, goes to LinkedIn, and I have it like in a circular funnel, like just something that I designed so that based on my audience, like when it goes where. And what I'm loving, that's how I automate everything to make my life easy. And the thing I love about Instagram the most is Instagram stories. Obviously DM, voice I'm using a lot more than I was before. I've done some videos, but Instagram stories is where all my action happens. I'm not getting much views on my feed, but I share that to my stories, then they go back to my feed. So thank God for that sharing there. So it's all on my stories, hundreds every day on my stories, but not my feed, which just goes to show you, like, algorithms change. I switched back to a personal account, and then I'm like, no, I need my numbers. I miss my analytics. I went back to a business account, but I think that, I definitely agree with you that you need to share, and you can't also come from thinking that you're posting on Instagram and everybody sees your post, and you can repost and they still didn't see it again. So it's okay to repurpose content. And, I know a lot of people that sit down and prepare so much content, and I'm like, why aren't you repurposing like old things? Like, nobody's seeing that. That's such good content. And like, oh yeah, like it really just depends on like the person, but Instagram's my number one. Well, Instagram and Facebook, but it's always in Messenger. Don't you feel like people won't like or comment on something, but they'll always message you?
Yep, I love it. And also, just like you mentioned, repurposing content, I never liked, let's go back to Facebook, for instance. I never liked Facebook watch parties. I was like, I don't understand these. These are dumb.
Oh, yeah.
The other day, I had a really great live stream that I did with one of my business mentors. And I was like, more people need to see this. So I did a watch party the other day, and I got 2 people into my business, which was cool because I've never used a watch party, but I got 2 people into the business because they saw the watch party. I was like, oh, maybe these things do work. Maybe I need to become more strategic. And so just like you said, it's not a brand new live stream. It's an old one, but I just decided to bring it back up into the feed by creating a watch party. And so sometimes I think that we forget the resources that we actually have in front of us and go, oh, I don't have to create a bunch of new stuff. I can just share something that either did well before or maybe people didn't see before, because no one's going to go, you already shared this, like they're going to be grateful, right?
They really will. And they'll tell you too. And that's the best part. And then it's like a tap on the, pat on the back. Like, good thing I just did that. But I just learned something new. I didn't realize that you could repurpose the live and then make it a watch party. That's interesting. Maybe I should try that with the video I did.
So to create a watch party, you can either go over, like they'll give you some to choose from, or you can choose some of your own. That wasn't loading for me, for instance, but one of the options when you go to watch party is to share a saved video. So what I have done is that live that was popular that I wanted to share with my mentor again, I just made sure that I had it saved.
Oh, perfect.
So when I went to launch the watch party, I just went to the saved tab.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
So I was like, wow, I just got business because I shared something that was like many weeks old, but I was like, how do should I reshare the stream? How should I do it? I was like, let's test this out. And it's funny because it goes to show sometimes the stuff that you're against or that you think might, like, oh, those are annoying, or I don't understand those. I've been against watch parties for a while and I just used it and got business from it. So I was like, well, 1 for 1 so far. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll use it with some techniques or some like actual strategy behind it.
I know, but again, you tried it. Like, you have to just try things. Like, that's the thing. So many people are stuck in their business because they've either been coached by someone, or I don't know, they're reading somewhere and they're just set in their ways. I'm like, you have to think out of the box. Like, my show, I'm so excited. I just hit 60 countries last week, and I can tell you why. It's because I repurpose every single episode as a LinkedIn blog.
Oh, I love that.
Everyone, twice a week. I took a little hiatus because it's a lot of work, but that goes to my Pinterest. Pinterest is SEO. I also have blog posts that are SEO. So that's driving traffic to this show. And I just tried it. I'm like, I just need to figure out another way to get more listeners. Like, let me try this. And a year and a half later, like, it's still working out. But I've tried other things that definitely didn't work. And I'm like, okay, so that was a waste of a week, but at least I learned.
Well, my husband always says, look, even if you don't want to do something, so let's use Photoshop, for instance. Like, I don't want to sit around and do Photoshop if I don't have to. I'd rather have someone else do it.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, though, wouldn't you like to know what you're hiring out for? So wouldn't you like to just at least learn the basics? Like, you don't have to learn everything, but at least know what you're talking about. And so he always says, if you're going to hire out for something, at least know what you're hiring out. And I thought that was such a great idea.
I love that.
I don't want to learn everything, but I want to learn just enough to where I can be efficient. Give the work to someone else, but like not get bamboozled, or however you say it. So
that's such a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't need to learn that. He said, well, how do you know if they're doing a good job? How do you communicate it? And I was like, well, that's good. So I just say, if I can take a quick class that can teach me, or I can properly communicate it, it's cool. I'm not going to take like an hour-long class to hire someone, but it has helped me because I'm like, you're right. How can I hire someone to do something if I don't know what I'm doing? And so I'll tinker around, at least use the interface of something, and then I'll hire out for it.
Oh my God, that's such great advice. Now, tell us what you're working on right now.
So right now, I am working on a rebrand, if you will, of Body Brains Bank Account. As mentioned, I when I first started it, it was about all the things that I love to talk about, related to Body Brains Bank Account. And now I want to turn it completely around and make it about the community. Put a directory up and allow them to, have meetups and talk with each other. And it's worked really well for our accountability program. People have now launched businesses together. People are doing shows together. It's so cool. They've really become a tight-knit community. And so I said, if we can do this for our higher ticket programs and our mastermind program, why can't I do this on a larger scale for my own brand? And so that is the intention for now. And then really just focusing on stress management for entrepreneurs. What we have access to as far as technology, even us being able to talk to each other, right now over this platform, like, this is so amazing. So I just want to remind people of why they got into it, and it's meant to be fun. And, I haven't shared too much of my story, but I've been through some really intense and insane things in my life. And it's just taught me that at the end of the day, the worrying about the past, the worrying about the future, none of that stuff really matters. What matters is, progress moving forward each day, keeping your focus, finding great accountability partners that will hold your feet to the fire, and really just, allowing yourself to breathe into it and not like lose your mind over stuff. And so that's my focus moving forward is every day somehow on Body Brains bank account, whether it be, through social media or through the actual website, just sharing those kind of tips with people. So I've been kind of sprinkling it here and there throughout my Instagram, but I'm just sharing more stress management related content so that I can create a happy community of people, because if not, why not? Why not?
Exactly. I've been using happy, healthy, positive, and productive tagline for years. I don't even know, like it just like came out of me one day. So I've had it on my vision board for years. And I'm like, if you don't have that, like what do you have? Like you just have to make choices that will allow you to, be happy. And if you're happy, you're going to be more productive. It all just kind of flows together, I think.
Yeah, so those are my main focus, and then our biggest, best, most I guess you'd say life-changing for people program called the Trainer Method. We are going to be opening that back up in 2020. But for now, it's just really helping people have more fun. So that's it. I'm so excited that we finally got to talk. So I feel like we've both had so many amazing things beginning to blossom. And it's not just us, I've realized that, the more I talk to people in the community and our clients, I feel like there's a rising, for all of us, like everyone, we're finally coming into what we feel comfortable with, or maybe not so comfortable with. It's beginning to bloom and blossom for us, whether it's relationships or business or anything. So I'm excited to see what's ahead for both of us.
I know, me too. Now, can you remember when you had a certain day or a specific moment when it just hit you and you were just like, oh my God, this is why I chose this life. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So, what's really interesting is my husband and I do something every week for date night, and we like to choose different things. So, like one day it's indoor skydiving, sometimes it's go to the botanical garden, and it's ride scooters or something. And about a week ago, we took electric bikes. I don't know if you've seen those around, but we took some electric bikes and we went down to a place to go just be outside and sit outside and walk around the shops, whatever. So we took these electric bikes for the first time, and I was riding the bike, and I just got filled with emotion. I was like, why is this happening? And I realized when I was going through the deepest, darkest time of my life, when I was drinking all the time, going through my mom's death, just laid off from my job, getting kicked out of my place. I mean, like the worst of the worst. I lost everything, and I lost my car as well. And so to be able to get places, I had to ride my bike. I rode a bike everywhere in 30-degree weather, when it was raining, like it just the worst conditions. And I did that until I got myself back on my feet. And what I realized was riding that bike and being in the motion and just like kind of like shutting off my conscious mind, I just realized like how far I'd come. And I realized like, wow, I used to have to ride miles every single day to and from work to get to work. I used to have to ride when it was like pouring rain with 2 jackets on and, wrapping up my face. And it was just like the worst conditions. And I just told myself every single day, I was like, someday you're going to be able to tell a story about this. Someday this is going to be funny to you. Someday someone's life is going to be changed. And the other day when I was riding the bike, I realized I got this just huge wave of emotion. I was like, whoa, this is really cool, because I how you kind of go, I got there. I did this. I did it, and during that time I was in a job I hated. I was crying every day. I was miserable, and I just kept going. Just show up. Just show up every day. Like, just do it today. We'll worry about tomorrow. And then the next day I'm like, just show up, and so it was a moment just like I said, just last week that happened on Tuesday, actually. And I just was like, holy cow. I chose this. I used to, be so miserable and so down on myself and stressed out and worried. And I made the decision just to show up every day for myself. And now I'm not having to do that. And I'm not having to, bike when it's raining and miserable and crying every day at work. I get to work with people that I want to. I get to, have the programs and create the programs that I want. And so it made sense to me why I had that wave of emotion, because it was like, coming back to the same place, but with so much more knowledge. And so it just made me think, like, sometimes we get down on ourselves, but if you think about this and you're listening to this right now, you've made it through 100% of the most difficult, rough, hard times, whether it be family or love or work or personal, and you're here and you're listening. And so what a blessing that is, and so I think that having that moment on the bike just made me realize, like, you really can get through anything. And sometimes it seems crazy and overwhelming and you want to quit and throw your hands up, but just keep going. And, someday you're going to go, I'm going to tell a story about this someday. I'm going to look back on it, because that's what I'm doing right now. Just last week, it hit me like, wow, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, this was not my life. I could not just go with my boyfriend or my husband or whoever and have a fun bike ride for date night because I was worried about how I was going to put food in my mouth, So that was one recently that happened that really I didn't think it would hit me as, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just having fun. And when the emotion came over me, I was like, whoa. Let me stop for a minute and be present and like enjoy this and celebrate it, because I really have come a long way. Do you ever do that where you're just like, okay, hold on, I really have come a long way. I'm not doing that old pattern and that old stuff that was holding me back. I should give myself a pat on the back.
Yeah, and I don't do it, like, I never used to notice, and now my friends pointed out, like, do you realize what you just did? I'm like, no, that's just my job. Like, this is just what I do. And they're like, no, but you did this. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then I'll write it down in my journal. I'm like, oh my God, I did do that. Like, I just don't realize it still.
Yeah.
When I do things.
And that's the thing is, like I mentioned, sometimes you're so go that you don't realize outside of those blinders there's so many great lessons, and that's what I always think about, like when I quote unquote fail at something or something doesn't work how I meant to be. I'm like, it's okay, the blinders are off for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see a different perspective, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story. You gave me chills.
No, it's crazy. The other day I was like, why am I crying? I thought it was just because I've been out of shape because I haven't been working out on the road. I was like, what's going on?
And I think as Geminis, we're just like extra emotional. Can you agree or what?
You get me.
Oh my God. Now, where can everybody find you online? Where's the best spot?
You can't. So all of my social media is my name. It's Tarlese. I used to say I've never met another Charlize, but I searched on Instagram and I found a couple other people. So that's pretty rad. But other than that, my website is bodybrainsbankaccount.com. Once again, that's bodybrainsbankaccount.com, or you can go to charlize.com as well. It goes to the same place. So I'm username is easy to find, and I'm so excited to be able to use social media to connect with different people, because everyone is so different and they all have such a different feel that I feel very blessed to be able to build an audience, to communicate with people. And we have coaching clients, I was thinking like 15 countries if I'm not mistaken, and I was like, whoa, it's so cool. You have your phone or you have internet and you can do this. So I'm grateful.
I'm so grateful too, because if it wasn't for that platform, you and I would never have met. You would not be on this show. And it is crazy. I have a call with somebody in Australia in a couple hours because it will be 9 a.m. I'm like, let's wait till you're actually up in the morning and then it's afternoon my time.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I didn't realize how far.
I think that's something like for the end of this conversation to kind of hit on, though, is like, don't get discouraged, because we really do have so much information at the palm of our hands. Even if you can't afford a coach or a mastermind, or to get some programs, even if you just go online, there's so much free content out there for us to really whatever you want. I've taken up more gardening lately, and I'm always looking at gardening stuff. I'm like, wow, I am so grateful that there's a plethora of knowledge. So if you are feeling frustrated with business or things aren't going your way, just know that there is probably someone out there that's felt the same thing you have, and there's information out there for you. And if there's not, wow, what a perfect opportunity for you to launch something and to like be the head of that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to come on my show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. This has been great.
It has. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll talk again soon. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone who you feel needs to hear this message. And don't forget to tag me at The Happy Workaholic on Facebook and Instagram so I can feature you on my stories. And if you have 2 minutes and listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I would love it if you could leave me a review. Those messages mean so much to us podcasters, and they really help me create more of the content that you'll love. Want to continue today's conversation? It's simple. Head to Facebook and search for the Happy Workaholic Network Facebook group. Answer the questions and you're in. For more information on myself, coaching programs, weekly newsletter, and more, visit thehappyworkaholic.com. The Happy Workaholic Podcast is part of the iHeartRadio Podcast Network. Be sure to follow the Happy Workaholic Podcast on iHeartRadio or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I hope that your day continues to be happy, healthy, positive, and productive, and I'll talk to you again soon.